Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Bible Illustrated Hands. I wanted to make a general video because I get a lot of requests to do videos, what are your thoughts on X? And a lot of those X's are politicians, kings, queens, presidents, different kinds of rulers. I want to make a general video just so you would know the template by which I operate. I'm not a fan of any of them. I don't think I practically like any ruler because, in my opinion, you can't wield huge amounts of power without compromising your Christian principles. Then again, this is how things are. That does not mean that I don't think that a ruler cannot be a saint. As Father Dimitri used to say, in this world we don't get to choose between good and evil. We often, and when you wield huge amounts of power, you always choose between a greater and a lesser evil. And especially because, rulers are usually in such positions that none of them, literally none of them, can make some huge choices simply out of thin air. There are many interest groups. You have to obey to your party, to your ministers, to this or this fraction, to this church, this faith community, this minority, this majority, and so on. And it is a huge and a deadly balancing act. I used to think that, how it is in the lives of the saints. Some ascetic gets to be elected a bishop. He runs away and hides somewhere, and people seek that person out and they make him a bishop. It is my firm belief that this was done in the spirit of humility, and we should see it as such. Those people were basically fleeing from what I have just described. It is very difficult to get tangled up in those nets without becoming soiled by the world. Of course, the Lord is the helper and He will help those in a position of power if they seek Him out. But still, it is a very difficult thing, regardless if you're a man or a woman, a monarchist or a Republican in the sense of being a part of the Republic, that is being a representative in a parliament, a president, minister, head of the department, whatever. I'm simply not a fan of that. So that colors every of my opinions on the issue of what are your thoughts on this president, this prime minister, this or that queen or archduchess or viscount or whatever. Simply it is an iffy thing. Sometimes I think that the only people who can wield power without causing that is sometimes I think that the only people who make the choices completely by themselves are absolute monarchists, but that isn't true. That is a very, how should I put it, that is a very naive way to look at things, and I think that we should take a special we should take guard not to be deceived by such childish approaches like, if we had and I think that is why a lot of Christians are attracted to monarchy, like, a king would solve everything. No, they wouldn't. Like, for example, in Serbia, the king, the Masonic societies simply thrived during monarchy at the beginning of 20th century. So, it is always a balancing act, and that does not mean that I hate them. I dislike a lot some of them. You may hear which ones I mean if you ask specifically, but in general, not a huge fan. And especially because whenever there is a regime change from a pious Christian especially if he's very dictatorially minded, the church is always the first one to suffer, you know. And I think that is why churches should keep, a sort of amicable distance from the rulers, because they can be there today, they can be toppled over tomorrow, and then your own flock is in danger because you were playing huggy huggy kissy kissy with king or emperor. And for what? For nothing. So I liked when Putin was anointed literally as the president or prime minister of Russia. One priest I know said, Russian church learned nothing from a century of persecution, like nothing. And I agree with him, because it comes back to bite you in the ass. Bye.